Deborah Sharmaluz with Technically, a news organization that serves a community of technologists and entrepreneurs. Today, ahead of our May 10th Developers Conference, we're talking to the enterprise security team at Vanguard. We're releasing the series of technical talk videos in the lead up to the Technically Developers Conference as a part of Philly Tech Week presented by Comcast. I'll be passing it over to the team now, excited to hear their expertise on the topic.
Awesome. Thank you, Deborah. This is Srinath Chigullapalli. I am the global head of IAM, Identity and Access Management at Vanguard. So welcome to the presentation. So what we want to do for the Philly tech community, first off, congratulations on attending the week-long festivities. What we want to do today is kind of give you a sense of what we do at Vanguard from a security perspective. We'll share a little bit of different functions across all of our organization, share a little bit of the technology and some of the problems that we tackle, and we would love to have a conversation with you when we get back. All right, so first up, so before I start off, I want to talk a little bit about who Vanguard is. For those of you who are in the Philly area but have not come across Vanguard, we are a financial services company that manages about $8 trillion of client assets. And we are a very unique company compared to any other financial services company. So what makes us unique is the way we are set up as a company, our ownership structure, where our ownership, the ownership of the company is held by our investors. So typically in a financial company, you have an ownership structure with investors being different from the owners. In the case of Vanguard, we are actually owned by our investors. So when we talk about our success, it is our investor success. So we are probably the only company that are set up at this scale that keeps our clients first. So our mission is very simple. We stand for all of our investors and make sure that they are successful in their endeavors, right? So that's basically Vanguard. All right. Jake, if you don't mind moving to the next slide. So quick by the numbers of Vanguard, I think I talked a little bit about $8 trillion in assets. And a key difference for us is not just the ownership structure, but also how we rely on technology as a differentiator for the services that we provide, right? So when you hear about Vanguard and you hear about financial services, you're thinking, hey, it's a financial services company, but our technology footprint is probably 7 to 10 times the size of the investment teams, right? So it's a huge technology company that provides fintech as a service, right? So 8 trillion in assets, 30 million clients across 170 countries, 19 global offices, and about 30,000 employees who work for there, right? So the key aspect of technology that we have been driving over the past few years is the drive to cloud. So as a company, we've made a huge investment into moving most of our workloads in the cloud. I don't think there's been any other company that has made that much of an investment in driving this, driving their technology towards the cloud. So it's been an exciting journey. We're probably year 3 or 4 of a multi-year journey, and you'll hear a little bit about how we're not only looking at cloud, like moving our application development to the cloud, it's also how we're enabling security to kind of move and enable that journey to the cloud. So you'll hear a lot from some of my colleagues today on some of the stuff that we're doing, right? All right, so let's kind of move to the next slide, Jake. I'll quickly touch on this, is the Vanguard risk and security pillar. So at Vanguard, our security is kind of based on 3 different pillars. One is we want security to enable our business strategy. We don't want security to be in the way of the business strategy, but how do we enable the business strategy in a safe way? At the same time, protect Vanguard's clients, employees, and the assets, right? So that's the goal of our risk and security organization. And we don't believe it is just the responsibility of the security team to do this. We want everybody at Vanguard to kind of think of security as part of their job. So how do we enable a risk-smart culture at Vanguard, right? All right, so jumping to the next one. So how are we laid out as a organization, right? So the organization, we are part of the Chief Information Security Office, and we have 5 big pillars in the organization. The first one is identity and access management. I'll cover a little bit about that in the future slides. Global enterprise security, global security and fraud, cybersecurity and operations, and security architecture and engineering. So those are the 5 big pillars. We'll talk a little bit about each of those pillars as we go along. Right. Jake, let's move to the next slide. All right. I think I missed the slide there. Yeah. So as a financial company, what are some of the threats that we face that we try to tackle, right? As a financial company, we have obviously some, I think most of you are probably familiar with some of these, which are some nation states that are trying to kind of attack us and steal assets or intellectual property, cyber criminals trying to kind of cause fraud and financial losses, insider threats. That's a huge challenge for not just financial companies, but for every company. DDoS attacks from other hackers and players in the space, and not just direct impact, but also through third-party and supply chain compromise, right? So it impacts us in multiple different ways: the reputational risk, the fraud, the regulatory impacts, and obviously the disadvantage you have from competitors once you have this, right? So multiple threat actors, multiple ways that it can impact us. So security, as in Vanguard, as in any other company, has a ton of work to kind of tackle and prevent these attacks, right? All right. So first one I'll jump to is identity access management, and I actually head up the global identity access management function at Vanguard. What we do, our mission is obviously, as of any IAM function, is to make sure that we're protecting the client's assets of Vanguard, at the same time making sure that whoever needs to get access can get access to the system that they need to get access to perform their job, right? So how do we get the right level of access to the right employees at the right time so they can do the job and provide the best service for our clients? We're split across 2 functions, one, or I should say 2 basic core functions. The core functions from a business perspective and a core technology functions. The core functions from the business are how do we run the operations and how do we give the access, how do we maintain the access, and how do we define the risk environment on how we operate and how we grant access and how we revoke access as people move along the organization, right? Obviously, there's a lot of technology that is involved behind the scenes to make this happen. I think we talked about 30 million clients over 170 countries, but it's all done virtually, right? So everything is done virtually. So technology plays a huge part in enabling security, whether it's IAM or the external security. So huge technology function to enable more modern level of access, especially as we move to the cloud, and also on the on-premise side of the house, right? So there's heavy involvement of Java development. There's AI, ML. There's access provisioning systems that happen that make sure that we as a company can move ahead. As we look to the future, as we look to the next steps in the IAM journey, I think I kind of hit a little bit on that, but it's the journey to the cloud. How do we enable a really proper security model in a world where most of our workloads are running in the cloud, right? So just a quick hit on the function and what we skill sets and what technologies we use. I'm going to next turn it over to Jake, who will cover the global enterprise security function.
Thanks, Srinath. So I'm Jake Webster, and I work in Global Enterprise Security, also known as GES, and I lead our DevSecOps program. So GES is a large group made up of numerous functions, but our primary objective is to optimize the way we protect our crew and clients' informations against emerging threats and optimize the way we serve our clients and internal partners. We do this by aligning business and tech-savvy teams with senior business and technology leaders, all while ensuring we're creating great career opportunities for our employees. So diving into the many functions of GES, first off is security assurance. These teams conduct security assessments such as security architecture reviews, penetration tests, security code inspections on both custom and third-party applications and infrastructure. They help risk rate the issues based on likelihood and impact to shareholders and the business. They also execute more sophisticated adversarial style attacks where they try to break in from the outside just like a threat actor would. In some of these campaigns, we partner closely with our CSOC that Christina will talk about later. Lastly, they govern that security patches are applied across the enterprise, which consists of tens of thousands of servers and endpoints, like Srinath mentioned earlier. Next up is the controls testing function. This group helps assess exposure to attacks of individual systems or business processes and helps design technical or process-based controls to mitigate that risk. They ensure that these controls across across ES&F are designed and operating effectively. Results of these controls testing are also leveraged in reporting to Vanguard clients and business partners. The Threat Intelligence Group's goal is to identify threats that are or will target Vanguard in the future. To do this, they leverage multiple sources from vendor data feeds, dark web monitoring, industry groups, and national security groups. This information can even be targeted to specific areas of the world, looking for regional actors and region-specific risks. It's a space that continues evolves as they work to aggregate all this data into threat intelligence platforms to improve the speed at which they can review information, alerts, and provide their analysis and reporting. Similar to the assurance group, they also partner closely with our CSOC. The DevSecOps group, which is the group I lead, is responsible for shifting security left in the software development lifecycle, where we know it's both faster and cheaper to remediate risks and defects. We do this by integrating automated security tooling into our CI/CD pipelines, things like static application security testing tools, software composition analysis tools to identify open source risk, container scanning, and a bunch of other tools. More tools come up in this space every day, so we're constantly evaluating those tools and how they can better remediate risk earlier for developers. We're also growing our threat modeling practice to better equip development teams to self-identify risks prior to development to ensure that the proper security controls are being implemented. Lastly, we maintain a security champion program, which consists of developers, tech leads, and architects as their day job that partner closely with a security organization to drive oversight and adoption of identified risks and the new tooling that we're providing. The vendor management space consists of two groups. First, there's the vendor management office, which partners with internal product owners like myself to navigate the legal processes for onboarding new vendors and ongoing contract renewal. And secondly, there's just like custom applications, we need to assess our suppliers. Srinath mentioned the supply chain risk earlier. Teams of security experts review, visit, and test suppliers with increased scrutiny based on the sensitivity of the information involved in the partnership. Our security training and awareness group, they test the human components of information risk through education campaigns, such as promoting Cyber Awareness Month and conducting regular phishing campaigns. They're also responsible for helping identify and develop curriculums for where specialized security knowledge is needed. The BISOs, or Business Information Security Officers, are aligned to business leaders to help enrich risk-smart decisions at various levels of the organization. They help illustrate the applicable security controls to new and ongoing ventures and illustrate the value of those controls to our business partners. On the flip side, they're also the voice of the business within security and fraud to help push the business agenda forward and to navigate the various groups necessary to be able to accomplish their objectives. In the governance and compliance space, this group helps govern that all the things we've talked about are executing properly by running a governance program that brings senior leaders from across the enterprise together. This group helps develop and maintain company-wide security policies across a ton of different topics such as IAM, information classification, use of personal devices, and remote access, just as a few examples. They also partner with the Office of General Counsel to evaluate cyber laws and regulations to ensure that Vanguard practices are assessed to comply globally. The last function I'll mention is workforce planning. They maintain the strategy and plan for making sure that we win the war for cyber and fraud talent. They help drive that the right people and skills are in place across all of security and fraud, which means looking at the skills needed both today to be successful, as well as what will be needed in the future as technology and threats continue to evolve. Next, I'm going to pass it over to Greg.
Thanks, Jake. Hi, my name is Greg Zaharchuk, and I'm a senior fraud investigator in the Vanguard Global Fraud Protection Team. Our group provides oversight and investigations throughout the organization, encompassing both internal and external investigations. Those investigations include clients, crew, and non-clients. When a client purchases shares or redeems their money, our team uses the tools that we have and verify that those transactions are in good order. Knowing your customer is critical to protect against fraud. Those investigations, both large and small, protect trillions of dollars here at Vanguard under management. The fraud team focuses on two main goals: prevention and detection. We're here to prevent and detect fraud through close collaborations within the business and the fraud tech team that supports the tools that the investigators use. We work closely with the business and when a new app is released on the website. This close integration allows our team in the business to review the app and determine if there's any weak points, something a fraudulent actor could use to their advantage. This feedback will drive rules and back to the tool itself and prevent future attempts. The fraud team utilizes two tools for the prevention and detection of fraud. One of those is a real-time monitoring application that will scan Vanguard.com. This tool constantly monitors the website and looks for different preset rule patterns. The data sets that we use for the rules are always being updated from previous fraud investigations. In near real time, alerts will fire based on the rules that we have created the moment that it happens. Once a rule is triggered, investigators can quickly go to work to research the alert and put steps in place to lock down the account in question. The investigators play a large part in feeding additional data back into the system to prevent future fraud attempts. These fraud rules are constantly updated based on the need and the fraud attempts that are taking place. We also utilize a big data lake to view fraudulent attempts that might span over weeks or months. The data lake contains many different data points that the team can use to craft rules based off of that fraudulent behavior. This data can then be used to scan against various tables to gain a complete picture of the transaction. Utilizing this tool, we're able to get a much longer view than what detects against basically a slow fraudulent attack. When we combine close collaboration with the business, feedback from the investigators, the use of real time and longer views, we're able to secure the assets and protect our clients. This protection is paramount within the ever changing fraud landscape. The combination of great investigators and great tech leads to a very secure and protected accounts here at Vanguard. And now I'll pass it on to our Security Operations Center.
Thank you, Greg. Hello, my name is Christina McMahon, and I will be speaking on behalf of my department, which is the Security Operations Center, or as it's also known, the SOC. Now, the main mission of the SOC is to protect, detect, and defend Vanguard's infrastructure and its assets. So let's walk through each of these to understand what is at the core of our department. Now, when we think about the ability to protect, this means that Vanguard proactively deploys safeguards to ensure the delivery of our critical infrastructure services. Now, detect means that Vanguard can identify the occurrence of a cybersecurity event on our network and respond to it in a timely manner. And finally, defend encompasses our ability to take action regarding a detected cybersecurity incident, and it supports the ability to contain the impact of identified events. So now that we understand these three principles, let's talk through why we do these activities in the first place and how we provide these protections for Vanguard. Now, being that Vanguard is an e-commerce business, it should come as no surprise that we are attacked 24/7, 365 days a year. And in fact, Vanguard is attacked millions of times per day by any number of malicious attackers that have hundreds upon thousands of different motivations for their attacks. And I want to walk through just 3 different threat actor types to start to paint a picture of the varying types of attackers and their motivations. Now, first up, I will speak to botnets, which are leveraged mostly in the occurrence of distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks. And these attacks are a particular concern for Vanguard because they could prevent legitimate users from accessing Vanguard sites, which would cost us significant amounts of money and even cause reputational damage to the Vanguard brand. Now, DDoS attacks have been a particularly hot topic for security professionals in the past few years because the frequency, intensity, and sophistication of these attacks has steadily increased. And this is why we as security professionals in the SOC need to get out in front of the attackers and start predicting their moves before they're even making them. Now, the second threat actor that I will speak to are nation states. And nation states are extremely sophisticated hackers that are sponsored by or affiliated with a government. And their primary objective is to disrupt or compromise target governments, organizations, or even just individuals to gain some sort of strategic advantage for their country. Now, a great example of more current nation-state attacks can be seen through the war on Ukraine, because Russia and its sophisticated state-sponsored hackers have launched a number of different cyber attacks against Ukraine, all in an attempt to destabilize the country and gain military advantage. And while a large portion of these attacks have been targeted against Ukraine, they have had international effects, and the United States has felt the impact of these strategically timed and targeted attacks. Now, this is important for Vanguard to understand because it shows us how the threat landscape is constantly changing due to current events, and we need to be aware of these to ensure that we're providing the right defense for our clients and their data. And finally, the last threat actor that I will speak to are insider threats. Now, believe it or not, but the people that work for Vanguard actually represent the most concerning attacks to our business. And this is true simply because of the sheer amount of access that this group tends to have. Because no matter what the use case is, we need to give our employees certain access to data so that they can do their jobs. Because with no business, we have nothing to protect. Now, realizing this, the SOC needs to be diligent in its detection of insider threats by using technologies that spot known insider threat characteristics and identify anomalies or deviations from the norm. So now that we understand the different types of threat actors that can target Vanguard's infrastructure, let's talk about how we provide this protection in light of the changing threat landscape. Now, Vanguard leverages a concept called defense in depth to provide layers of protection for our network, because we can't simply apply one tool or even just a few different tools and expect the entire network to be adequately hardened against these advancing threats. We need to use a diverse range of tools and technology at each network layer to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our clients' data. And as you can imagine, these technologies span across the area of data analytics, automation, networking tools, and so much more. And through these tools and technology, we're able to provide protection all the way out at the perimeter of our network at the very highest level, and then all the way down to our endpoint user devices, such as our company desktops, laptops, and even smartphones. Now, as you might be able to tell, the SOC is constantly battling this ever-changing attack landscape that presents new challenges daily. And this is why Vanguard's SOC needs to stay nimble by incorporating artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other general data and analytics concepts into our arsenal of protection methods. Because when we can teach algorithms to learn from past attacks, we can start to predict future ones. Because it isn't good enough to just block the known attacks anymore. We need to outsmart the bad guys and provide proactive defense rather than purely reactive defense. And we can do this by leveraging historical attack data to provide predictive threat analytics so that Vanguard stays ahead of the curve. So thank you all so much for your time. And if any of this content interested you, please be sure to stop by Vanguard's booth, because the SOC actively recruits technology professionals who are skilled collaborators, critical and creative thinkers, and most importantly, are truly passionate about learning and growing their security skill sets in a fast-paced environment. Thank you so much. And with that, I'll pass it off to our next speaker, Anand.
Hi, my name is Anand Subramanian, and I'm a senior manager for the enterprise authentication platforms and services. And I'll talk about a day in the life of the SAE department. SAE is a dedicated technology group for security that operates independent of information technology. Our focus is to solve security concern by leveraging the latest and greatest modernized technology. As the name states for itself, SAE focuses on security architecture and engineering. First, let's look at the security architecture team. Our security architects define standards and the building blocks of security for Vanguard systems. They have deep insights of the network design, cloud standards, and emerging technologies. Our security architects provide a way to minimize any potential disruption from security by making sure that our systems are isolated at the network layer, passwords are encrypted, and the system fails securely, making sure that Vanguard is not left unprotected. Our architects are trusted advisor on major initiatives where they provide guidance on latest tools, technology, and framework, such as cloud security posture management and SASE. Moving on to our automation and support group. This group designed and implement our operating modes to ensure uptime and that our security function deliver on requirements. They help accelerate with issue resolution through automated processes. With the help of robotic automation, our support team leverage their alerts and monitors to act on unhealthy systems without manual intervention. They primarily use low-code and no-code methodology, leveraging vendor RPA products to enable these capabilities. Next is our security engineering team. They build and operationalize the major security system that provide key security controls for Vanguard. There are 4 focus areas in the engineering: client identity, workforce identity, infrastructure security, and fraud engineering. As in any technology group, we have our good fair share of legacy and modernized platform. Let's look at client identity first. Client identity is comprised of storing credentials, authenticating users and APIs, providing access to external APIs, and external partners accessing Vanguard APIs. We have already made great strides in standing up SaaS-based IDP platforms where credential is hosted in a SaaS environment and are continuously identifying different patterns to move remainder of our enterprise towards the same direction. We are also modernizing our API authentication and authorization across the enterprise. For years, we have been leveraging proprietary technology to protect our APIs. That no longer is a viable option as our organizations are moving towards API-first mindset. We are aggressively moving towards cloud and SaaS-based technology to provide a streamlined process and follow industry-wide standardized protocols such as OIDC and JOT. From second factor authentication strategy perspective, we are focusing on a risk-based approach in addition to a device-based approach. We are actively implementing technology in partnership with large browser organizations that will enable our clients to log on through web, mobile, and voice, and authenticate them across these channels without any friction or password while being highly confident and knowing exactly who you are. Next, in our workforce identity engineering team, we provide systems that enable our identity and access management group to properly provision roles to make sure that the right person gets the only access they need to perform their job. These platforms enable our internal consumers to manage, validate, and certify roles and entitlements within the Vanguard ecosystem. We are also embarking on newer journeys to provision these entitlements contained in the cloud platform with no on-premise footprint. We have also enhanced our federated authentication mechanism to leverage SaaS-based IDP to provide single sign-on capabilities to third-party products. Not only have we made it easier to integrate to third-party products, we have also simplified the onboarding experience and have dramatically increased our throughput. We're also venturing out and looking at SaaS-based multi-factor authenticators to enable our employees to log into our infrastructure with minimal friction and maximum protection. Let's look at our infrastructure engineering team now. They provide our SOC with all the tools necessary to secure and monitor our network infrastructure, endpoints, and services. They provide our SOC with the ability to respond quickly in an event of a threat. As we move towards cloud workload, our infrastructure team are responsible for implementing newer capabilities to validate if our infrastructure meets the necessary controls and adheres to our security policies. We are also onboarding tools to enable us to check against our IAM policies and privilege access to make sure that we are meeting the requirements set forth by our IAM group. And finally, our fraud engineering team provides fraud operations with tools to get real-time alerts and monitors for our web traffic. They create analytics based on client activity and patterns to provide valuable insight to identify potential fraud actors. Fraud is an ever-changing landscape, and to manage those changes, we are looking at newer tools and technologies to get even better. We are looking at SaaS and cloud-based products in conjunction with AI/ML and analytics that will enable us to create a risk profile for every single client in order to thwart fraudulent attempts by a bad actor. Thank you very much for your time. I will now turn it to Srinath for some closing comments.
Awesome. Thank you, Anand, and thank you for the rest of the team. So just to kind of close out, I think we talked a little bit about how Vanguard as a company is very unique. Our leveraging of the latest and best technologies to provide the best service for our clients. We talked a little bit about the threats that as a virtual company that we face, and how we have to continue to evolve and leverage new technologies to protect Vanguard clients and our assets. So an exciting place. There's a ton of exciting work. We'd love to kind of talk to all of you even more when we meet in person. Obviously, we couldn't share some of the more inside details of the security mechanisms inside, but we'd be happy to chat about the technology and the difference that technology makes in protecting a Vanguard. So looking forward to meeting all of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And thanks you guys for joining us. We hope to see you in person at Perpay on May 10th for the IRL portion of this event. Have a great day.